All right. Um, Hello, everyone. My name is Ariane Rizzo, Client Success Manager with InnoVint, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to be talking about winery activities that you may be doing over this next month or pre-harvest, such as facility maintenance or your annual physical inventory for the TTB. So there are so many things to do when it comes to buttoning up your inventory, buttoning up your winery in the months leading up to harvest. I thought it would be fun to cover how you can record that activity in InnoVint. So well facility and equipment maintenance is handled differently by every winery in terms of protocols and routine schedules and things like that. It's likely that at least some portion of that maintenance is handled in-house. Even if it is handled by outside technicians, a log of that maintenance can be tracked in InnoVint. And this is the thing I wanted to show you. We'll do that using custom tasks in work orders. And here's what that looks like. So let me switch on over to InnoVint. Okay, and I went ahead and created a work order template for equipment maintenance. I'm going to pull that up. And this template is one, it includes a custom task that I customized to kind of suit my needs. And here's how I set this up. The first thing is you use the template to give yourself very clear instruction. Essentially of how you would fill this out each time you use it. That means the title of the work order, the title of the custom task, the instructions, and then anything else that's relevant. I even included a little calendar reminder for myself at the end of the instructions to remind so that I know to create the next scheduled maintenance at the end of completing this work order. So let's go to the top and let's fill this thing out. You'll notice I'm using a very consistent work order title format. This will help me keep track of maintenance items, especially when I look back on these in the future. I'm going to go ahead and put in, let's see, we're doing maintenance for July of 2021, and the equipment is press number 1. And I'm leaving that word equipment in there because it'll be a good search term for me later. You could also do things like preventative maintenance, facility, emergency maintenance, sort of whatever keywords are really critical and work for your team. Next, I changed the title of the task. So I told myself here that I want this title to sort of set the schedule of me doing this. This equipment maintenance is actually going to be annual. And I'm just going to go ahead and say pre-harvest. That's kind of the point of this one. And then just put in your instructions, specifically, what should be happening, what's the SOP. And then go ahead and select winery. So this is the big one. Use winery when you're applying activity to your facility or to equipment, things that are not necessarily lots or vessels, but would be tracked again on the winery. So I put that in. And, one thing I would say is the benefit of setting up your maintenance work orders this way is, actually, I'm sorry, let me scoot out of this. Let's pretend I filled this out. I created it. I signed it. Good to go. I'm going to head back out to the Work Order Explorer, lose that work, and head to my All Submitted. So the benefit of setting up your work orders that way is so that you can go back and look at the record, right? So now I can come in here and I can search by equipment and pull up all of my equipment maintenance logs, essentially. Or I can search by specific equipment. If I just want to look at pump number 1 and see every time I recorded maintenance on pump 1. So you can imagine this would get to be quite a long log after a while and a pretty effective home base to house all this information. If you are the person completing the work order, another great tip is to use the photo notes. You can document what is happening when you're doing this maintenance. So I'm going to click into this one here. I filled this out. Make sure to put in an image. Herman did a great job. But you could also attach a photo of that leaky seal or broken O-ring, whatever it may be, and then you have that record documented, and you really have all this great information housed in InnoVint together. So really cool there. Lastly, where you can see this information is if we head to the calendar. And just a reminder, you can see that scheduled maintenance in your calendar amidst your other wine work if I had other wine work orders scheduled. And of course, you can change the due date by dragging and dropping. All right. Okay, so let's actually move on to empty barrel maintenance. I hope that all made sense with equipment and facility maintenance scheduling. Let's move on to empty barrel maintenance. And this is something you're probably already doing on a very consistent schedule. Again, I have created a work order template, empty barrel maintenance. Go ahead and pull that up. And here you'll notice a similar pattern. A consistent title format, having the month and year in there, and language that you can easily search by. I've changed the custom action task title to reference what I'm doing. I'm using this for my self-filling of empty barrels on a routine schedule. And here, actually, let's go ahead and fill this out. For 06/21, we're doing this month. And then you put in your instructions, your SOP, make sure to wear your safety gear. And let's apply this one. Instead of winery this time, we're going to apply it to vessels. So I'm going to select vessels and then come in here and change my filter. So my contents filter, I want to look for all my empties, and I want to look for vessel type barrels. From there, of course, you can simply add all empty vessels to the list and go ahead and select those. Or maybe you have a larger data set and you're sort of filtering this for maybe more specific groupings of barrels, and it may require a little bit more choosiness. Of course, you can always click individually and add them over, or we just added this new option where you can add vessels by page grouping. So if I just want to move all 15 that are on this page over and then sort of skip ahead a few pages and pick a different page worth of contents, we have this new button here. So I want to make sure to point that out so you guys knew about it. I will go ahead and add all of my vessels. And then assign, scroll all the way to the bottom, assign, set the due date, set owners if you have custom crush, and then go ahead and create that work order. If you'd like to schedule this, or even if we're talking about the equipment maintenance and you'd like to schedule that as a recurring routine, I want to remind you about this create recurring work orders option that we have here. I click this, I get a great pop-up. I could say that I want to repeat this schedule every month or every 2 months on the 5th day of the month, and you want to start a certain day or end on a certain date, or after a certain number of occurrences. I do like to put an end date on here or a number of occurrences simply because this will create several work orders and it can kind of clutter up your work order explorer. So I think it is good to sort of create these in chunks, maybe quarterly, and then come in and create the next round. And then you can always come in, once you've made this, come in and edit that barrel list after, before the next round, before the next work order goes out. So just be mindful of that. Okay, once I click done, I get a great little summary down here of my settings for the recurring work orders. And I'm reminded that I can create 4 work orders. Excellent. One of the great benefits to using the custom task to document your empty barrel maintenance is seeing that record on the empty barrel. So I have an empty barrel pulled up over here, 10003, and I can see each time I did that SO2 empty barrels, that maintenance in the history of this barrel, and I can see that there's empty barrel maintenance scheduled for next month as well. So just a great kind of reminder of how you can kind of keep track of the health of that barrel by utilizing these tools. One more quick thing about barrels before we move on. If you are decommissioning barrels this summer, you're getting rid of several, you're getting ready for a new grouping to come in, I do want to remind you of the bulk archive feature. So if I head to Vessels, the Vessel Explorer, and Manage Vessels, here you can archive or unarchive vessels, or you can come in and archive many at once. So it'll be that same sort of slide over menu we were just using in the work order view, where you can use the filters and help find those barrels. So if you're decommissioning all of your 2016s or 17s or something like that, be sure to use the bulk archive tool to hide those from view moving forward. All right, so that sort of wraps up the equipment and empty barrel maintenance portion of this. I'm going to head back to my slides for a moment. We're going to move on to the next topic, very different topic. I totally am aware, but hopefully this is very helpful for some of the folks attending today. So our next topic is your inventory record for the TTB. For those that file monthly and quarterly, the TTB requires an annual physical inventory to be done and documented. They ask you to pair this with a perjury statement that I think they provide the language for on ttb.gov, and keep that record on file in case of an audit. So you can find that perjury statement and all the requirements about this regulation if you go to ttb.gov and search for this CFR 24.313. That's the section on the inventory record, and pull up all those regulations. So for many wineries, this must be completed on June 30th. I know that some wineries have different schedules that they've pre-approved with the TTB. So that may not be your schedule, but I think for many it is June 30th. So I'm sort of leaning on that today, and that's why we tried to make sure we hit this early in June. So to get started, the first thing you have to do is take your physical inventory, right? So I recommend utilizing the Vessel Explorer. Go to the Vessel Explorer, simply hit export, no additional filters needed, and then take that export around the cellar with you. Divide it up amongst the team if you need to, whatever the plan is. I know that many wineries will schedule a day with no wine movements to make sure that when the physical inventory is done, that it's done accurately and there's no sort of movements going on at that moment. But I recommend the Vessel Explorer for this tool, or as the tool for this, because it has the most detail. It gives you every vessel, the fill level per vessel, and then all the wine details and vessel details. So this is definitely your best export for taking the physical inventory. Once you have done this and noted how much is on hand and in what vessels, the next step is inventory corrections if needed. For that, we'll use the inventory adjustment action. So I'm going to head back to InnoVint now. We'll head to our volume adjustment action. And for this, you want to select your lot, and you want to utilize the reasons of inventory gains or inventory losses. These are really your two primary tools for cleaning up inventory and adjusting to match your physical. As a reminder, these tie directly to the matching cells of the TTB report in Part A. So this is for declared wine. And again, those are kind of your best reasons. I would probably also, once you've completed this and you're about to record, I would also recommend adding a note to these adjustments, just something that says like annual physical inventory adjustment or adjustment for the TTB, something like that, something consistent that you put on each adjustment. so that when you look back on these in the future, you'll know that this, whatever sequence of volume adjustments you made, all sort of tie to this moment in time when you're correcting your inventory for that, for the TTB record, essentially. Okay, so that is how we do corrections. One correction that may come up, I know this happens every so often, you do your physical inventory and you find out that maybe your volume of wine is correct, but maybe one of the vessel IDs is wrong. For whatever reason, it got entered into InnoVint in the wrong barrel number. If that happens, then go ahead and use the transfer action to move that volume to the correct barrel number. You may have to do a couple of transfers to kind of finagle things around and get everything into the right home vessel or the ultimate vessel to match your physical inventory. But the transfer action is your tool for that, especially since there's no volume change. All right, let's see what's next here. So once your adjustments are done and your physical inventory matches InnoVint as of the end of the period, in my case, that's June 30th, then you have two options for pulling the relevant report. So let's say it's the morning of July 1st. No wine activity has been recorded in InnoVint since yesterday, June 30th, which is good. Your record is still as it should be. For that, you can export the Lot Explorer. So head to the Lot Explorer. No filters necessary, just export. The export that comes from this has a lot of details that are maybe a little bit actually extra beyond what the TTB requires, but sort of certainly not useless here. You get the lot name, you get the sort of number of vessels and or the specific tank ID, and lots of good relevant detail. You would save this export and then pair it with the perjury statement document that you put together for the TTB. Again, this one is best if you have not recorded or made any changes to your InnoVint record since you completed your physical inventory and corrections, because this does adjust in real time. So only good if pulled in close succession following all of that. If not, if time has passed for whatever reason, then the next report I would recommend is head to reporting here, the inventory at point in time report. So you would open this up, set it for June 30th, 11:59 p.m. Or July 1, 12 a.m., sort of whatever feels right to you. Run that inventory report and then export that and pair that export with your perjury statement document. This, again, is especially useful if you forgot to pull the Lot Explorer closely after. If you do utilize the inventory point in time report, just be mindful. It doesn't have as much detail as the Lot Explorer. So based on your specific inventory and the TTB requirements for this, you may need to add in a column with a few extra details. Again, I would read through those regulations and just make sure that you've hit all of them. Most inventory, or a lot of inventories, this will work great for, and there's a few if you have case goods or maybe a few other specifics that they call out on hand. You may just need to add extra detail to this one. But this does satisfy most needs, and I love this, again, because you can pull it after the fact, so it's great. Okay, once your physical inventory record is done and set, big important thing is don't forget to set your lock backdating. So for admins on the account, go to Settings, Lock Backdating, and then come in here under Lock Backdating and set a new date and set that date to, again, June 30th or July 1, sort of right around that midnight time, and set that lock date. That way, no inventory can be adjusted moving forward, no inventory can be adjusted that precedes that date without getting an administrator's approval. And an admin, if someone does need to change inventory and you're aware, you approve, you'll change your TTB reporting. then you can come in and adjust this date temporarily, let them make the adjustment, and then reset it back to the correct date. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the session. I just want to point out now, if you have any questions, start getting those in. I'm going to talk for a few more minutes, but we're getting close. One last note for those that haven't utilized this yet is I want to remind you of the audit report. So if we head to reporting, this is now found where you find your TTB report. And you can pull the audit report in conjunction with your TTB report for the same reporting period. And this report, it's a CSV export. It maps you to each action that you put into InnoVint that contributed to that TTB report. So it's your way to kind of double check the report and also understand why we filled out the report the way we did with the data that you input. That's also why I really like to leave those notes on those volume adjustment actions, so that if you're like, wow, I really have a lot of inventory losses or inventory gains this month, you can sort of map those back, click into the action and say, oh, right, that was for my annual adjustment. I expected it, and it's okay. So it's an audit report right here under TTB report. It's a great new tool. All right, so with that said, I'm going to check in on questions. Let's see, from Peter, can you add a comments box for bulk archive vessels? Nice to know who the old barrels were sold to and for what price. That's a good question, or it's a good comment. I'll have to defer, of course, to our developers, see if we could do something like that. One workaround to get through that now would actually be to, almost like we were doing with the empty barrel maintenance, create a work order for vessels with the reason, notes, details on that work order, apply it to all those vessels that you plan to archive, complete that work order, and then go through and do the archiving. That would be the way to get it done now and sort of have that record of why the barrel left. It's a two-step process, I know, but that's sort of the quick way. But yeah, great idea. Any other questions? Oops, my computer just went to sleep. I'm sorry. Let's see. Oops, sorry about that. Mark, also a great idea. Mark uses the tags to note who he sold the barrels to. So yep, that is the other option, is you could bulk apply tags. And let me go over there and look at that actually. So if we go to Vessels, Vessel Explorer, before bulk archiving, you can come in and edit tags and bulk add a tag saying who it was sold to, the date sold. And then it will be archived, so it will be hidden from view unless you come in, of course, to show those archived barrels. So thanks, Mark. Great idea. Make sure I noted these are done. All right, we'll hang out here for just a few more seconds. Let me know if there are any more questions. Let me head back to the slide PowerPoint. Okay, so just a few closing words. Please look out for 2 Academy sessions that we'll host in July. One for bottling and our new dry goods tracking feature. We're super excited about it. So look out again in your email for details of that one. The other Academy session will be the first of 2 harvest sessions that we'll host this summer. So one in July, one in August, and we really hope that you will all join us for that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you guys taking time out and coming to spend it with me today and learning more about InnoVint. So thank you and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.